Shalom everyone, this is Daniel Stern coming at you from our Netivyah offices in downtown Jerusalem. And in a follow-up to Tuesday's events, which I reported last video, the Saudi paper Al-Hadith reported that Mohammed Sinwar's body, along with the Rafah Brigade commander Mohammed Sabana and 10 other Hamas operatives, were found. So, in fact, the Tuesday strike on the European hospital was very successful against murderous enemies of Israel who have illegally turned humanitarian installations like hospitals and schools into legitimate targets due to embedding themselves in the civilian population, which tragically causes casualties among the civilians. So, if anyone ever says, why are there so many Gazan civilians killed? How is it that the IDF does this? Genocide, schmenocide. You always can remember that the Hamas operatives embed themselves intentionally within civilian populations. For Israel, killing a civilian is a tragedy. For Hamas, killing civilians is a strategy. Now, speaking of Gaza, over the weekend, Israel started bombing in preparation for Gideon's Chariot operation, which is the operation to finally defeat the Hamas and to turn the Gaza Strip into 3 zones. We'll talk about that in a moment. And the Gaza Health Ministry, which is of course controlled by the Hamas, claimed over 160 dead so far. It seems that the seriousness of the Israeli intent is bringing Hamas back to the negotiation table once again, although it's probably a delaying tactic. Now, back to the twice reported here potential deals involving release of half the hostages for a 50 to 60 day ceasefire. Now, there are still points of contention, as there have been from the beginning. The main point is the disarming of Hamas. Israel wants it to be immediate. The US is willing for a gradual process, and Hamas is unwilling to consider it at all. So thankfully, as always, our enemies save us from stupid deals. The current IDF strategy, I mentioned it a moment ago, is to divide Gaza into 3 zones with no movements of residents between the zones and with supposedly strict security checks for entering goods and goods moving between the zones. We will see what happens. Donald Trump once again repeated that Gaza is currently a horrible and ugly place and will be a freedom zone and that the US will control it. We will see about that, but once again he repeats it. As always with Donald Trump, you can take what he says with a grain of salt, because while he may mean it, he may not, he may push it, he may not, we just don't know with him. He says whatever's on his sleeve all the time, and on occasion he also changes his mind, like we saw recently with the tariffs that he placed all over the world. So that's that. NBC reported that, speaking of Donald Trump, that Donald Trump is planning to transfer 1 million Gazans to Libya in return for unfreezing funds of Muammar Gaddafi, the former dictator of Libya, frozen by the United States. And speaking of Libya, which has been divided since Muammar Gaddafi was deposed, currently there are 2 governments and some decentralized tribal zones. One of the governments is backed by Turkey and Islamists and is based in Tripoli. And it seems to be fallen apart. 9 of the government ministers, including the deputy prime minister, resigned due to corruption charges. Let me clarify. The ministers are saying that the government is corrupt and consequently they want no part of it, not that they themselves are being accused of corruption. And just to give you the rest of the picture, the East Libyan government, we were up to now talking about the West Libyan government, the East Libyan government is backed by Egypt and the United Arab Emirates. And there has been a civil war going on since Gaddafi was deposed and found dead. There are also Islamic forces and tribal militias operating in Libya. Overall, it's quite the mess. Reports from Israel Today paper of a new French-Saudi initiative to arrange a UN-sponsored conference to force Israel via sanctions to advance a Palestinian country with no consideration to Israel's security or even to have recognition of Israel's right to exist by said future Palestinian country. And this comes directly after Emmanuel Macron, president of France, has been quite vocal against Israel in the last months or so, both regarding Israel's actions in Lebanon and more recently calling for an end to Israel's offensive in Gaza, stating that it has been enough, that we have gotten our security and revenge. And this idiot Macron doesn't even take into consideration the fact that the reason for this war of a year and a half is not because of the past. It's looking for the future. It's looking to make sure that October 7th never happens again, that Hamas does not remain the power in Gaza able to rebuild and do such atrocities again. Now, this is not the only such initiative. Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, has called for a meeting on October 15th of the Arab League, 22 countries that are in the Middle East and North Africa, in an effort to encourage peace, security, and stability in the region. I would recommend to Mr. Putin to focus more on Ukraine and bring in peace and stability there, but hey, that's on him. Moving on to Syria, lots of interesting things going on. There's a report from Reuters and Israel Channel 12 News that Major General Oded Basyuk met with high-ranking Syrian and Turkish officials in Baku, Azerbaijan, in secret talks to advance cooperation and negotiations with Syria. After reports of President Trump lifting sanctions on Syria, the Dubai Port Authority announced that it would upgrade the Tartarus harbor in Syria at a cost of $800 million. Associated Press says that the World Bank reported that Saudi Arabia and Qatar have paid off Syria's outstanding debt. It really seems that, led by the United States, the Gulf countries, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia, are really trying to strengthen Syria, but also to pull it away from Turkey and from Iran, and to pull it towards the so-called moderate Arab countries led by the United States. A few hours after meeting with Donald Trump, President of Syria al-Jolani spoke to his people and said that a new Syria, the new Syria, will be a country of peace and stability. Moving on to Lebanon, the Lebanese paper Asharq al-Avst says that Lebanon has detained 21 agents who worked with Israel, given information leading to assassinations, such as locations, movements, and the names of replacements in key positions after the formers were assassinated. This report is shaking up situation in Lebanon. It's really shocking the society there, and is a reflection of the whole war itself between Israel and Hezbollah. And we'll see what happens. It said that one of the 21 agents was the son of a high-ranking officer in the Redwan forces in Hezbollah. But anyways, we'll see how that develops. Further in last episode's report about the chief prosecutor in the ICC, Karim Khan, he is taking a leave of absence due to the scandals against him. In particular, it said that he was taking steps against those ICC workers who supported the accusations and the woman who complained against him. So he is being removed. We will see how this affects the case against Israel in the arrest warrants against Prime Minister Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Now, I think this is our last report for the day, but it is an insane, totally crazy report for me as Israeli to hear, which is that Major General Ghassan Alian, who is the head of the cooperation in the Palestinian territories branch of the IDF, lied to sources within the Prime Minister's office and the Defense Minister's office, stating and claiming that no fuel has entered Gaza. And when in fact it was discovered that fuel did enter Gaza, apparently 2 trucks. And after that, the IDF stated that it was under orders from the ministries to do it. Basically, they put the blame back on the ministries. So, like last episode, when we, regarding media and fake media and media reporting falsehoods, said, also in this case, someone is lying to us. Either the politicians, which we all are led to believe that lie to us all the time, or the IDF. From the IDF, the response was no comment. So, to me, it's just absurd and insane that the IDF would be lying to the Defense Ministry, but we'll see. In any case, one piece of uplifting news is that yesterday we had the Eurovision contest, a song contest with 26 countries reaching the finals. Israel was one of them, and the judgment is divided into 2 parts. One part is a panel of judges from each country that score between 1 and 12 points to the different songs. And the second part is a popularity contest voted in. Everyone from any of the 37 or so countries that are part of the contest are able to call in up to 20 times. Each call costs €1, so each person or each phone can spend €20 voting 20 times for whichever country's song they feel is the best. And Israel's representative, who did a very beautiful song about a new day rising, who herself is a survivor of the Nova Song Festival, took second place. So that's very nice. And took first place within the popularity vote, the one where people vote in. So it's very encouraging, and once again, this is a joke, reminds us that the Jews control the banking in the world because we were able to afford voting in all the more than anyone else. Ha 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 ha. But anyways, moving on, it was very nice. I stayed up until 1 in the morning and watched it. Good job. And last, I'd like to ask you to please pray for the leadership of Israel to make wise decisions regarding Gaza, regarding Syria, regarding all these politicians that are meddling with us, whether it's Emmanuel Macron, Vladimir Putin, or anyone else. Not to waste historic opportunities to remove the Gazan residents from the Gaza Strip, whether it's to Libya or to another place, to push forward and pray for protection for our soldiers. Pray for protection for the civilians as well, but especially for our soldiers and for the return of the hostages. Shalom.